The E-body steering column. Classic look, brilliant design, and today I'm going to show you everything you need to know to identify, disassemble, restore, and reassemble a Cuda or Challenger steering column. One of the things I get asked quite a bit is what's the difference between a power steering and a manual steering? Well, let me show you. Right here, we've got a power steering column, and this is a manual. One of the first things you'll notice is the length of the steering shaft. On a power steering, it's much shorter. On a manual, it's quite a bit longer. The other thing you can look for to tell the difference is the coupler. It's different. It's 3 inches on both a manual and power steering, but the hole on the end on a power steering is about 0.63, much smaller than the hole on a manual, which is 0.73. So if I can put my pinky in and touch bottom, I know it's a manual. That's one of the ways I tell the difference. Another thing I get asked a lot is what's the difference between a floor shift and a column, and is there a difference between floor shift, 4-speeds, and automatics? There's not. If you've got a floor shift, it works for a 4-speed or automatic. On a column shift, you will actually have a column that comes off the collar, and that would be your shift point. That's the only difference. When it comes to the year, there's quite a bit of difference. 70, it's a 1 year only. You can always tell a 70 when you look down and you see the lockout tube. That's a 70 only feature. On a 71 and up, that got moved to the collar right here. So if you were to turn that, this would flip down, and to get the key out, you'd have to flip that back up, and then you could get the key out. So that's 71 and up versus the lockout tube on a 70. The other thing you want to be aware of is on 70s, they did use a brushed ignition. So it's got a satin look compared to in 71 and up, they would use a chrome. Now, a lot of times when you buy a restoration part, a new ignition, you're going to get a chrome one. That's pretty much the only option right now. And the same goes for the turn signal. They're all chrome versus 70. These would have had a satin finish on them. So when it comes to the paint, there's a special paint that you want to use on this, and we'll show you how to use that in a little bit later in the video. But it is called a suede finish, and they do come in different colors. So on a 70 column, you could actually get a colored column. You could get blue or red or green depending on your interior, versus in 71 and up, they're all black. And the way you tell which one you had is if you had a Challenger RT, you automatically got rally gauges. All Challenger RTs had rally gauges, and all rally gauges get a colored column with the colored interior. So red, you'd get a red column, green column, and so forth. Now, if you had a white interior, you'd actually get a black column. Now, where that changes is in the Cuda. See, not all Cudas were rally. You could get a standard gauge Cuda. So you could have a Hemi Cuda that had red interior, but it might have had a standard gauge, so you would have a black column. Now, if you did get a colored column, if you did get a colored interior and you had a non-rally gauge, you would still get a colored spoke. So in this situation, this came out of a blue interior SE Challenger. So it had a blue spoke, but it had a black column. And again, all 71 and up, they were black. The paint that's used on that is actually called suede, and it is a special paint that you can get from PPG that has a mixture in it, DMA 364. This is the texture mixture, and you mix it with a lacquer paint, and you'll be able to spray a really nice original looking suede finish. And when we do this, we're also going to be doing our dash, because our dash, our glove box, and our ashtray, they're all the same finish as this. So we'll be doing this all at the same time. A couple other things that you could look for to tell the difference in the columns is the flashers. They did also change. On a 70, it's going to say flasher with an arrow and an on. On 71, it just says flasher, and it's much fatter compared to the narrower 70. On the reproductions that you're going to get if you buy a new reproduction part, it's going to say hazard, and it's going to be the fatter version. All of them work. The reproduction ones, you're going to need to sand them down a little, and I'll show you later how to install those. The other thing you want to be aware of is the wiring on these. All columns ended up with 2 wiring harnesses, but there is sometimes a third single yellow wire. That's your A01 light package. So some cars would get an A01 light package, and that would be a light bar inside here, and we'll show you how to take that out and restore that also. So all these columns, which is really cool, have a ton of date codes in them. So we're going to head over to the workbench right now, and let's go ahead and start looking at some date codes, and we'll start disassembling and show you everything you need to know to take one of these apart.